Hi, and welcome to part 3 of the multi-part series on coping with university demands, time management techniques. My name is George Marquis, and I'm from the American University in Cairo. And this presentation has 2 parts before it. If you haven't seen them, you should watch them first. We're now in the third part, which is going to start with a video on procrastination. As I said in the second part, as I promised you, this is a well-known video from YouTube of a case of a chronic procrastinator. Let's watch.
This morning I got up and got ready quickly because I had to get a lot of stuff done. I sat down at my desk to start getting my stuff done and I spilled my coffee, so I got a sponge to clean it up, and I figured I'd take an extra minute to clean the whole desk because a clean desk would help me get my stuff done. When I was finished, I realized I hadn't eaten anything and I didn't want to be hungry while I got my stuff done, so I went into the kitchen and I was out of cereal. When I got to the grocery store, I remembered a bunch of other crap I needed to get, and I figured I was already there, so I did my shopping for the week so I didn't have to worry about it while I got my stuff done. When I got home, I didn't feel like cereal anymore, and so I made an omelet and I did the dishes so I wouldn't have to do them after I got my stuff done, and then I went out to get some oil from the hardware store because my desk chair is kind of squeaky and I didn't want to be distracted by a squeaky chair while I got my stuff done. When I got back, it was getting kind of late and I knew I wouldn't be able to get my stuff done today, so I started watching the Twilight Zone marathon on TV. I just have to make sure I get to bed early because I want to be well rested tomorrow so I can get my stuff done.
So, you've just watched classic example of procrastination that wastes most of the day, or in fact the entire day. Procrastination is worse when you have large blocks of time that are empty, such as on the weekend. So if you wake up on on Saturday with the intention to spend the entire day studying, but you don't have your entire day structured according to what you're going to do from 1 hour to the next, you're very likely to procrastinate. Why? Because you have a lot of time in which to avoid beginning what you need to do. So what are the causes of procrastination mainly? They are here, according to research. Main cause is studying for exams. That means that more students put off studying for exams than they do anything else. Second is reading assignments, and the third is writing a term paper. As you can see that administrative tasks, attendance tasks, and school activities in general do not cause students to procrastinate as much. And the reason for that, we can suggest, is that they are, number one, they're less antisocial. In other words, you can be involved with other people more in the last 3 than in the first 3. Second, because they are structured so that they have smaller parts that can be accomplished quickly. So another reason why people procrastinate is because the end goal is unclear. It's not certain when you're going to be finished and how long it's going to take. And that's another reason that makes people avoid beginning. There's no sense of quick accomplishment, so there's no enjoyment. And also, it's just harder to study for an exam than it is to do a simple administrative task. So, more procrastination occurs when the activity is carried out alone. That's why I recommended that as much as possible, you involve other people in your studying activities when you can. Obviously, you can't write a paper with another person. That would be collaboration, and that sometimes is unethical. But you can have a reading group, a reading discussion. When you need to have sustained focus, such as reading and writing, that can cause more procrastination. And when you can't see the end very quickly, that can cause you to procrastinate. So what is the solution? As I said, invite someone to study with you. Design all tasks as small tasks. What does that mean? That means, for example, that if you have to read 100 pages, break the 100 pages into parts. I, for example, have an iPad, and I download my texts onto the application. I have a Kindle application on my iPad. So instead of buying the book, I buy the electronic version. I download it onto my iPad, and then I take it to the gym with me. I place it in front of me on the treadmill, and as I run, I read. Some people can't do that. It makes them dizzy or it makes them sick, but I can do it. I also read whenever I take my iPad with me, and I read wherever I have a free moment. So if I go to the dentist, for example, and I have 15 minutes before I go in where I have to sit in the waiting room, I read on my iPad. And to me, it helps me to pass the time a lot more. But what you can do is this. Again, if you have 100 pages to read for a class, break that into smaller parts. I'm going to read 20 pages between 9 and 10 a.m. on Saturday. I'm going to read 20 pages between 1 and 2 p.m. Because the smaller the goal, or the easier the goal is to achieve, the less likely you are to procrastinate, meaning that the quicker you will get to the task. So a 200-page reading assignment becomes 10 20-page reading assignments. So when is it most likely? You're more likely to procrastinate when you have a long assignment. That's why you should break a long assignment into many small assignments. If you don't have a clear picture of the end, and when you have not planned a long assignment into smaller segments with specific start and end times. That's why on the weekend you're more likely to procrastinate, because you haven't put start and end times. You just said, oh, it's Saturday, it's Sunday, I have free time, I'm just going to do it. That doesn't work. So lack of planning. I'm going to go through some techniques for planning. If you're very busy, these are very helpful. You don't have to have this type of plan all the time. If you're on vacation, you don't need it. But if you're working and you're busy, you do need it. So what can you do between now and the end of the spring semester? For one thing, you can start by making a semester calendar. So you should record your classes on this calendar. Block out the times for the semester, because while you have class, you can't do anything else. So then you should record when your exams, papers, and projects are due, and get the info from your class syllabus or your class syllabi right away. Almost all professors will give you the due dates for the major assignments in the syllabus. And they might give you weekly assignments for readings. You can put them down. You want to be careful if you're taking more than one class. It could be that you have assignments from both classes due on the same day, particularly if they meet on the same day. And in that case, you need to plan well in advance for starting them, because if you've got more than one assignment, you're going to need twice as much time to finish your assignments. I once was taking 2 classes, and I had a presentation and a term paper in one class, and a term paper in another class, all due on the same day. So I had to think about how I was going to handle that, and I started about 3 weeks in advance. I finished one assignment, then I made the presentation, and then I finished the second assignment. That's why these schedules are useful. You don't want to be surprised and discovering that something is due and you only have a couple days left to do it. So you always want to check your syllabi at the beginning of the semester for the due dates for the whole semester, write them in, and figure out how much time you need to do them. So you should record also when your department meetings are scheduled. If you have meetings with your supervisor, and those are regular, and they should be regular, your supervisor should not be telling you week by week when you're going to meet. That should be known so that you can put it into your schedule, and then you can work around it. You shouldn't be expected at a very short notice, 24 hours, for example, to be ready for a meeting. You should also record your important social commitments, your visits, your travel, your extracurricular civic activities. For example, if you know that you're going to be traveling, that means that probably during that time you won't be able to do anything else. So you're going to have all your work done ahead of time before you go. So then you should move from a semester schedule to a weekly schedule. Make a list of what you accomplished during the week and identify the day on which you will accomplish each task. And estimate how long each task will take. For example, will it take an hour or will it take all day? I use the Google Calendar. The Google Calendar is a feature if you have Google Mail, you'll notice that on the right-hand side there's that Google logo, and you open it up. It's the new way in which Google is interfacing, and you'll see the calendar. You open the calendar up. Now you can put in your commitments, for example, if you have meetings, if you have class. And the really interesting thing is that you can share this calendar with anyone else. So you could share this with your supervisor. Your supervisor could go onto Google and then see when you're busy and when you're not busy. You can do this with anyone else, with friends. You could do this with students. I do this with my coworkers in my office. All of us have access to each other's calendars. We can't change things, but we can see when other people in the office are available or not available. My secretary, for example, can see when I'm free. If students come in and want to see me, she can enter student appointments into my calendar for me. So that's very efficient. Another great thing about the Google Calendar is that when you can set it so that it sends you a reminder that you have an appointment or you have something coming up. So I have it to send that an hour before I have anything that's on my calendar, it sends me an email, as you can see in the thing I've circled here in red. Another way you can do it, which one of my students does, is to have a student planner. This is a little bit more old-fashioned. This requires you to carry something around. But on the other hand, the Google Calendar requires you to be online. So each way has its advantages and disadvantages. So here she writes down what things she has to do on specific days, and she takes this book with her to her classes. So here she is pointing at something. Another thing that you can do is use Outlook. Outlook is part of Microsoft Office. So if you have the Microsoft Office package on your computer, you have Outlook. And on Outlook, the advantage to Outlook is you don't have to be online to use it. You just have to have your laptop or your computer with you. The disadvantage is that I don't think you can do this on a machine that doesn't have Outlook. And Outlook is on your specific machine, so you can't go to another machine that has Outlook and find your calendar, unlike Google. But when you're on your own laptop, it can be convenient, and it will also send you a reminder. Here, as an example, I put all of my student conferences in here so I can see them. Now you can't share, maybe you can share this with other people, but I don't know how to do that. So the next step is to get a morning picture of your daily plan. Google Calendar will send you an email of everything on your schedule for a specific day, and you can have that sent to wherever you read your email. You can have it sent to your laptop, your iPad, your phone, or your tablet. You should prioritize your daily schedule at the beginning of the day. If you don't have specific hours for getting things done, you can prioritize in order of what's most important or urgent. Important and urgent don't mean the same thing. Important means that it's contributing to your goals. It's part of what makes you valuable as a person, and it's part, if you work for a company, your company wants you to work towards goals. It doesn't want you just to simply do things to stay busy. Urgent means that it has to be done right away. It can't wait. Now, if you have read Stephen Covey in his Secrets of Successful Persons, he talks about that important is better than urgent. So you shouldn't be running around doing things that have to be done right away. You should always be thinking about the long term, which is what's important. So use the ABC system of prioritizing. You can make a little list in the morning of what you have to do for the day, and then prioritize, as A's must be done right away, B's can wait a little longer, and C's are optional. So, just as a little quiz here, I'd like you to rank these tasks using the ABC method. Study for final exam next week. In other words, the exam is next week, it's not tomorrow. Check your Facebook. Correct students' homework that's due in 2 days. Meet with supervisor today at 3 p.m. Exercise at 5 p.m. Download songs from iTunes and Skype with a friend. Which of these would be urgent? Which would need to be done right away? And which could you postpone for a day or two? And which should not be done unless the others are done? So the ones that have to be done right away are A. The ones that can wait but are still important should be B. And the ones that should not be done unless you don't have anything important to do, those are C. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to write A, B, or C, and then we'll just move to the next slide. Okay, did you get the same answers? Study for a final exam next week is B. Check Facebook is C. In other words, you shouldn't be checking Facebook if you have other things that you have to get done. Correct students' homework due in 2 days is B, although you might want to start some of it right now. Using the system I said of breaking a long assignment into small pieces, you could say that you have to, for example, if you have 40 paragraphs that students wrote in the target language, you might want to do 10 between 6 and 8 p.m., 10 between 8 and 10 p.m., or 10 tomorrow morning, and then 10 during a break while you're at classes, and then 10 in the evening. That way you won't have to do all 40 at once. Meet with the supervisor today at 3 p.m. That's urgent, it has to be done. Exercise at 5 p.m., A or C. The reason why this is A or C is that it depends on how important the exercise is to your goals. If you're in training, if you're on a sports team, then obviously exercise is something you have to do. If it's something that you're doing because you don't have anything else to do, then it becomes a C. Downloading songs from iTunes is C probably, and Skyping with a friend is C, unless there's an emergency. So, evaluate your schedule in the morning. Is it realistic? If not, remove some tasks beginning with the C's. Evaluate your schedule in the evening. Was it effective? Did interruptions occur? And did unexpected things get in the way? If they did, and you didn't get everything done, you have to think about how you can maximize your time the next day. So what are some of the distractions that might be getting in the way and not letting you get all your stuff done, as the video said? Facebook, email, phones, and friend. Those are probably the primary 4. Are there any questions? What happens to your productivity when you're interrupted? If you're writing a paper and somebody comes in and stops you and starts having a conversation with you, and you want to be polite, you don't want to say, I'm busy, get out of my room, and you start talking for a few minutes, when you come back to your paper, how much time does it take you to get back into the mindset you were in when you were writing? It's almost like if you're an athlete and you've been running around and your body is warm, and then you sit down for 10 minutes, your body cools down. It has to warm up again before you can get back into the play. So research says that interruptions not only use time during the interruption, but after as well. So what are some solutions? You should set specific times to check email when you're busy. You should set Facebook status as a way. You should put a do not disturb sign on your door, although culturally some people have a problem with this. They think that it's impolite, but it does help. My boss does this whenever he doesn't want to be disturbed in his office. Close your door. This is one of my problems. I tend to leave my door open to my office all the time, and people understand that to mean that they can come in and talk to me, and that's not what I want. Go to the library. Get away from an internet connection. I find this very helpful. If I can get away from being able to surf the internet, I can get a lot more work done. And put your phone on silent. So now that you're on task, no interruptions. And not being able to say no. What types of requests would you say no to? So why is this also a problem? Because if you keep accepting to do more and more and more and more for other people, you're going to find that you have absolutely no free time for yourself. Down at the bottom, I've said if you have trouble saying no to students, they will tend to rely less on themselves, meaning that if students ask you for help and you keep saying yes, 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 and you keep meeting with students to help them, you could develop students could develop a dependency on you, and what they really need to do is to be more independent. Now about organization, we also want to make sure that we're not disorganized. So what system do you use to file documents? Do you have all your documents at easy access? Do you have them organized in your computer in folders? Can you find them easily? Are the file names easy to search for? How do you name your files? Do you name them according to the subject, or do you name them by subject and date? For example, in my case, where I go to the FLTA enrichment session in Washington several years in a row, if I have files from 2011, 2012, and 2013, then I need to make some way of distinguishing them. So I should name the file, for example, Fulbright 2011, then another file 2012, 2013, so that I'm able to see which ones or how they're different. How do you name emails? Do you remember to use a subject line in all your emails so that you can search more easily for the subject if you need to? And how do you make electronic folders? Also, how do you find things in the morning? When you get up, do you know where everything is? Do you have your school ID do you keep it in your wallet? Do you keep it in? Sometimes I leave home and I realize that I've left my ID in what I was wearing yesterday. For example, in the trousers pocket. Do you forget to bring things with you in the morning? And how proactive are you? What types of virus protection do you have on your computer? How often do you back up your files? Do you have an external that you can keep a duplicate of your files on, an external drive? And do you use Dropbox? Dropbox, I find, is very, very useful, particularly with students uploading. I'm going to show you what Dropbox is in case you don't know. And also, where do you keep a spare set of keys? So here's a video on Dropbox that I'd like you to watch in case you don't know what it is.
You've been there. You're about to buy lunch and realize your wallet is in your other pants. Or maybe you left your keys at home. The problem is organization. You need one place for everything, like a magic pocket. Putting something in the magic pocket means it's always there, no matter what you wear or where you are. The same thing is true for computers. If you have more than one, keeping track of all of your files can be a pain. Solving this problem is one of the big ideas behind Dropbox. It's like a magic pocket, a single, secure place for all of your stuff. Let's meet Josh, who is preparing for a big trip to Africa. Right now, all of his trip info is spread across his laptop, desktop, and phone. He needs to consolidate it all and is tired of having to email files to himself or move them around with a USB drive. Then he found Dropbox, which creates a new kind of folder on his computers. These folders work hard to be exactly alike, even across Macs and PCs. By adding his itinerary to his laptop Dropbox, he can be sure the same file will show up in his desktop Dropbox and even on his phone. The same thing happens when he saves a document in a Dropbox folder. The document gets updated across all of his Dropboxes. But it's not just his computers. The Dropbox website also works to be exactly like his other Dropboxes. Anything he puts in Dropbox is available on the website automatically. This way, if his Jeep takes a dive and his computer is ruined, he can still get to his files on the Dropbox website, where they're always backed up. As it turns out, Josh's Safari was a success, and his laptop made it home with lots of videos and photos to share. Instead of emailing everything, he just shared a Dropbox folder with his mom, so she could get copies of photos she wants to frame. Because it worked so well for travel, Josh made Dropbox the home for all of his stuff, so it's accessible anytime, wherever he goes. Whether you're traveling the world, running a business, or simply organizing your life, Dropbox means you can stop worrying about managing files and backups and get on with your next adventure. You can download Dropbox now at getdropbox.com.
Okay, so what are some of the practical applications of Dropbox? Number one, if you use Dropbox with your students, for example, if each of your students has a Dropbox folder, then your students can upload their work to the Dropbox folder and you can access it on your computer. So you basically have the students' portfolios on your computer. And if students lose things, they'll always have a backup online. And you'll always know when the students have submitted work because Dropbox tells you the date. So if you are looking to see whether students are late in submitting, just check the dates in the Dropbox folder. There are many advantages to it. You can also take, for example, instead of taking a presentation with you on a flash, if you're going to a room that has the internet connection, then you can simply download it from Dropbox when you get there. Or if you have it on a flash and the flash doesn't work, you always have the backup on Dropbox. It's a great system and I recommend that you try it out if you don't already use it. Now for meetings. Why I'm going to talk about meetings is because a lot of faculty I've noticed will not have students make appointments in advance. They simply keep open office hours. But then you have 2 and 3 students showing up at the same time, and 2 have to sit outside. Sometimes they sit on the ground outside of a professor's office, which I find distracting and annoying. Or, if the professor has chairs outside, or the professor can have 2 or 3 students sitting in the room at the same time. But that doesn't allow privacy for the student that's having the meeting. So what I do is I think it's better for you to have students schedule meetings with you. Do you keep office hours? Most universities require professors or faculty in general to have a minimum number of office hours for each class that they teach. And what are your rules for office hours? Do you schedule appointments? As I just said, do you make students accountable for appointments? For example, some students will sign up for them and then not show up, and they won't send you an email telling you that they're not coming. And then when they see you, oh, I'm sorry, but I ran late in my class before, or I had a midterm exam that I didn't know about, or blah, blah, blah. A lot of students don't have the understanding or the conception that this is your time and your time is valuable. They think that you're just sitting in your office doing nothing. Make students sign up for appointments in advance at least one day. Don't let students change appointments at the last minute. Tell them, if it's less than 24 hours, you can't change the appointment. I also mark students absent if they don't come to appointments. For example, I consider an appointment like class time. So if a student doesn't show up, that's an absence. You can use Doodle.com. Doodle is a web-based application that allows people to make appointments for you, and then you can see them just by going onto the website. So here's an example. This is what the website looks like. You can set up an event, and this event has a link, and the link will be sent to everybody that should sign up for it. It's a great way to schedule a meeting. And here, for example, I have all of my students who've signed up for appointments. This could be to review paper. Sometimes I find that I'd rather sit with students and go over an exam than write my comments and give them back. I just find it's more effective in terms of feedback. So then you can print this out and keep it, or it can sync with your calendar. It can sync with Outlook, it can sync with Doodle. So you can have these things filled into your calendar. You know exactly when students are coming. Now I'm going to talk about setting specific goals. And first we look at long-term goals, because short-term goals are determined by long-term goals, not vice versa. So if you think, and I think, you know, someone like Stephen Covey would agree with me, that people should make everything that you do every day should be driven by what you want to do in the future. So if you're doing something that today that's totally disconnected to what you want to do in the future, it's not really that important. So first, if you think about your vision, where do you want to be 5 years from now? And what are you doing now that's in that direction? So what is the relationship between what you're doing now and what you want to be in 5 years? What are the goals you made at the beginning of this year? They can be academic, health, or athletic related, financial, social, anything. Did you come to the United States with the intention of making new friends, to travel, to find an MA program or a PhD program, to take courses, to save money, or to spend money? Those tasks that contribute to your long-term goals are the most important, and they should receive your priority. So now we're going to look at handout 7, which is about setting specific goals for the day, week, and month. And this is related to, remember we talked about procrastination and how you should break down large tasks to avoid it. So here, for example, let's say that in the left-hand column, I have these big goals. This is what I need to do this semester. So I'm going to take the GRE in December, or in, let's say, because it's beyond December, let's say in April. And I remember that this happened to me, that I had to, when I took the GRE, I needed to plan well in advance in order to study. Why? Because a lot of my math I had forgotten. The verbal part was easy, but the math part was going to be difficult. I knew I was going to have to start studying in advance. So I planned 3 months in advance to do a little bit each day by day. So here we have, for example, on the monthly goal, I'm going to study 120 pages of the Kaplan Prep or some other GRE exam each month. And how am I going to break that down? I'm going to study 10 pages of Kaplan Prep each week. And how am I going to break that down to a daily goal? So Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm going to study 3 to 4 pages from 7 to 8 p.m. So by breaking it down into this small, doable amount, 3 to 4 pages is not very much to study. But if I do it every day or 3 times a week, I won't have to do more than that, and I'll be able to study 120 pages of Kaplan Prep a month. So in 3 months, I'll be able to do the entire book. And when you do it long term, you have a higher chance of remembering because you're going to be using it over a long period. Excuse me. Here, read 4 200-page books over the semester. How would you break that down per month? And how would you break that down per week? And how would you break that down per day? And writing a research paper. This, of course, is harder because research papers may not take you more than 2 or 3 weeks to do. Hopefully, you're not doing a research paper and starting it a day before it's due, because you can't possibly do a good job with synthesis of sources if you're only giving yourself 24 to 48 hours. I mean, I'm a researcher and I can't do that. I need at least, if I'm not collecting data, just talking about secondary sources, I need a week to write a paper. But this plan will motivate you. It should help you focus on what matters. And the goals are much more achievable when you break them down into smaller parts. So you can use this. You don't have to do it now, but you can use this for the very big and long-term assignments that you have, like taking the GRE, if that's your intention. And that's it. So there were 3 videos, part 1, part 2, part 3. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that it's useful for you. If it is, send me an email so that I know that this has made a difference. A power quote I'm going to leave you with is, "The bad news is time flies. The good news is you're the pilot." This is George Marquis saying good luck and thank you for watching, and I hope that your time is well managed. Bye-bye.